All right, welcome, Randy. Episode like five or something, I think. Are we on five now?
It's Epi 5. Yeah, I'm keeping track.
Let's go. So this is all going on YouTube, dude. I'm keeping track on YouTube. I'm making fancy thumbnails.
Oh, nice. You started on the thumbnails now?
Yeah, I got great thumbnails. You haven't seen them?
No, I
No.
gotta check them out.
I'll send them over. They're nice. Man, I can't stop eating these frozen cherries today. I so this week, Monday, I squatted really heavy and did a pretty hard conditioning workout. Tuesday, I did the same thing, but I deadlifted instead of squatted. And then my frozen,
think you might be frozen.
great view.
Great view. Cherry.
And then
Big cherry.
anyways, I'm just gonna keep talking. Hopefully it stops. There we go. And then yesterday I went for a 25K bike and then ran 3K. And last night I went to bed at 9 o'clock because I was exhausted, but like just hit me randomly. And then this morning I woke up and I had like a little bit of a headache and just been like zonked all day. Like I'll do something like this and then I'll go lay down for an hour because I got a concert this weekend and I can't be sick for that. So I'm gonna nip
Going to
it.
see
But
Stapleton.
yeah, I want to see Chris Stapleton in Michigan. That's gonna be pretty sick. But I've always done this. Like I rarely get sick, but I will get days where I just feel ultra fatigued. And on those days, I just make sure that I always just sleep. I really don't push through and I don't try and like keep the day the same way. So today is just one of those days. I'm just eating frozen fruit in the sun on my back deck
And snoozing.
and snoozing. Yeah, really. Feels kind of like a waste of a day, but at the same time, like I don't want to be sick for four, so I'll just do this instead.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Smart.
I don't know what's happening with my camera. I hope this isn't going to be a continual problem.
Yeah, it's weird how it pauses and then it does this weird.
Yeah, like zooms
You're
me.
back. Yep.
We back. Yeah, anyway, so with all that going on in my life, I was just thinking, it'd be good to talk about like managing fatigue today because I think a lot of people are busy. A lot of people got a lot going on. Training can push you over the top. Randy, I know
Mhm.
you're a big napper, so tell the people what you do to make sure you don't burn out, bud.
Yeah, definitely one of my barometers for success. Like if I'm on the path, is looking at my week and how many naps did I have, and if I had all 7 naps, all 7 days had a nap in it, that's a successful week. For me, naps is like clockwork. It's 15 minutes and not a second after. It just like I'll usually set a timer, a 15-minute timer, and then usually I kind of like I'll wake up somewhere around the 13-minute mark and then just kind of like lay there as just an opportunity to just kind of whatever, stay quiet for a second. Then lo and behold, the timer goes off within a minute or two after I've woken up from the nap. And then it's just then it's like I got a second burst. So naps have always helped me, but I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to you about it as well. Like just some people just naps don't do it. So trying to figure out what what are some things that you can do because getting tired is just it's bound to happen. And sometimes it
Yep.
just hits you like a ton of bricks. And yeah, I remember this happening like getting really tired a couple days ago and it's like beautiful outside. It's maybe around like 6:30 p.m. Sun's out, beautiful day, clear skies. Like all I want to do is like be outside and whether it's like reading a book or spending time with friends or whatever it is or like but I was just zonked. Like I just had nothing left. Went inside, ate some food, and I was probably asleep by 8 that day. And so I think yeah, I think this is kind of like a thing we were talking before starting up the potty today, and it's funny you just talked about being fatigued, and I just like I look outside and it's beautiful, and I'm like, what the heck? Like why am I tired? Like I should be like full of juice right now, but
Right.
sometimes it just happens.
Yeah, it does happen, man. It does
Yeah.
happen. I don't know how you fall asleep. Like you set a timer for 15 minutes, fall asleep, and then wake up with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah. Like I'll fall asleep within a minute of laying
Yes,
down.
that's crazy. I don't have that. I can't do that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. There, you're back.
I think I'm gonna switch back to
Be
my
fun.
not fancy camera, and then I won't
You
have
got
it.
to do a new face
Look at the
every time. Oh,
difference. Oh,
wow.
this is so bad. Ah, whatever.
At least you won't freeze every 2 seconds. We'll figure that out another time. But
We'll get the tech
one
going.
thing, we were talking about that, like we were kind of going back and forth on that before, and then you mentioned like some things that can maybe like spark some energy back. Like maybe you don't have like a ton of time or whatever, but maybe you do get like a period of time. You were talking about a an unexpected moment in time that you had, and you did it like you did something that just kind of got you into a state and you kind of lost track of time.
Mhm.
And I think I kind of like tied this into like getting into a flow state. And I mean, there's so many different ways, or just like losing yourself a little bit in whatever it is you're doing, whether it's reading a book. For you, it was writing. For like it could be going for a walk, it could be doing anything. But I find like that's like a way to kind of shake things up a little bit and get you out of a spunk.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think what we wanted to kind of touch on today was just like some, I guess, less conventional fitness related topics and more so things that you can do to, or things we do to just like help keep things interesting or just get back into kind of like where we're not so concerned with like where we're at energy levels wise or optimizing this or optimizing that. And sometimes just doing something and just like getting lost in it can kind of bring us back to like, you know what? Like I'm actually not as fatigued because I think it really helps if we get out of this posture, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a
If
difference.
we get out of it, what I did, if you're just listening, I just grabbed my phone and I looked down at my phone. Like I think that posture gets us really zonked and fatigued, and we don't even know it. And there's probably many other ones that do that. Um, and so, yeah, why don't you tell us about this like newfound, or not newfound, you've written a lot of times, but now it seems like you're into a groove with it right now as of late.
Yeah, I mean, just want to quickly touch on the posture thing that you said because that it reminds me of like this study that I was reading one time where they actually they had a test that people would answer and it was like a mental health assessment test. And these people scored kind of like in normal ranges or whatever, and then they ran this experiment where they'd get them to walk and it was in a gymnasium and then get them to walk like really slow, like slump their shoulders forward and like look down and like kind of like a depressed, replicated depressed, kind of sad posture. And then they redid the assessment afterwards and like all of them scored lower on the mental health assessment. So like just by walking in the gymnasium, I think it was like 20 minutes or something, like just by walking and changing their body, like, they actually scored worse on a mental health assessment. So it really does something as simple as like how you're standing or what you're doing with your body can definitely have impacts on energy levels.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I just think that's important, like to recognize. Like one thing I don't think a lot of too many people talk about, but like your body is kind of like a radio receiver or like an antenna. Like if you stand like this, you're gonna feel different than if you stand like this, and there's a reason why. So it's like kind of recognizing that if you're in like kind of yeah, like you're just looking at your phone, but your whole body's kind of shaped in this like like I'm just kind of like bogged down. So that's an interesting thing to create awareness around because
Mhm.
it does get pretty easy to slip into those positions. But more on like a I guess like a less esoterical topic. In terms of like managing energy, I really like to have things that I can do with high energy, like obviously like running, training, cycling, lifting heavy, whatever, making jokes, social events, like all that stuff. Like I really like to have, like those things where I need high energy for them. But I also like to have things that I can do with very low energy and sometimes do better. Like in writing is one of those things for me. Like I've been writing for like pretty consistently I mean, I've been writing in a journal for probably like 10 years, pretty consistently. And like not just like little short journal entries, like sometimes like pages on pages. Um, so writing was always a thing for me. And then when I found Substack, that's when I was like, oh dang, nice. I can have like a platform where it's like designed for me to write. So I started doing that about probably 2 years ago, and I kind of started out as like, I'm gonna write every day, and then I did for a while. Then you don't, and then I got into writing like bigger pieces because my writing every day were like only like 3 to 5 minute pieces. And those were cool, but I just kind of fell off of that. And then I started actually writing longer pieces. And the longer pieces were a lot better. Like those are probably like 15 to 35 minutes in reading time. So like, I don't know, somewhere around like maybe like 15,000 characters or something, like 10,000, 15,000 characters. And those feel better to write because when I'm done it, I'm like, oh yeah, like I really got like everything that I was feeling out on paper, and that's what feels really good for me in my writing. Um, but the thing with that is you can't really, it's not like something you can schedule. Like it's not like at this time and on this day I'm gonna be in the spot where I can sit down and like write something that I'm proud of. Like there's nothing more frustrating than sitting down to write something and then you're just like typing, erasing because it's not it. Typing again, erasing because it's not like that's just like bah, you're just spinning your wheels. Um I know like Stephen King, like he would write 500 words a day. I mean he also did like massive amounts of cocaine, so that might have something to do with it. But he wrote 500 words a day. Like that was his thing. And so like there is merit to that, and obviously like he wrote like massive books, right? But obviously he didn't use everything that he wrote. Um, but yeah, like writing. Here's the thing with writing for me is the way I write is it's not about like I think uh it would probably surprise a lot of people. Just like if they read what I'm actually writing about. Because a lot of the stuff that I'm writing about will be, I'll like have a conversation with, like I would have conversations with you, Randy, or I would have conversations with like, my girlfriend, or I'll have conversations, with just random people, or I'll be in a certain situation and I'll think about something, and then I'm kind of like, oh, yo, like that's a good like starting point to write something about. Um, and then so I gotta have like the first spark, and then I gotta kind of have it figured out where I want to take it and where I want to go with it. It's really hard for me to sit down with no plan or no initial thing and just write something. It doesn't happen like that. So that means sometimes the gaps between my writing get a little bit bigger, and sometimes they're more frequent, but I don't it's less about me being able to be like, okay, on Tuesdays from 2 to 4 I write versus just like throughout the week kind of staying like creating an awareness around like trying to pick up things that I could potentially write about. That's something that I do quite a bit.
Hmm. And that it does, do you find like, you know, having something that can like some form of expression that is a way of just like after you finish, because you were telling me about a time, I think it was either this week or last week, where you got into a flow and then you just like look up and you're like, holy crap, it's been 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it was Tuesday. Yeah, it was Tuesday.
Right. And then like afterward, like after that, like that must be like a, I mean, that's probably like a spark of energy that you would get after something like that.
Yeah, I just feel like kind of clear. I feel like a little fatigued, but I'm like excited to get to the next thing.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
just like but I feel like I always leave feeling like, oh, like yeah, I just did that, you know, I felt
Right.
really good. And writing's like, yeah, man, like I'd say training too, but like writing even more, like writing's like the one thing that I can like completely zone into and then look up and be like, whoa, you know, like because if it's training, like if you and I are training, I can get into that flow state, but we're kind of like messing around. We're bouncing ideas off each other. We're making jokes. Like, you know, it's just like hanging out. It's a great time. But like, if I'm by myself training, like it doesn't even go by that fast. You know, it's
Mhm.
like, yeah. So like writing's like really a special thing where it's I can get into that flow state and it's kind of unlike anything else.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't look at my phone. I didn't take a break. I didn't like
Right.
go to the washroom. I didn't talk to anybody. Like I sat right where I'm sitting now and wrote the whole thing, looked up and was like, holy crap. Like,
Yeah, and I think that is the thing that like we're all kind of I know I just you saying that I'm craving that. And the fact that we're having this conversation now, I'm like, oh, this is we're doing it. We're doing what you did on Tuesday. Like I'm not thinking about anything else right now. I'm just engaged in this conversation. And I feel like especially now, we just have a lot of things that are trying to pull for our attention.
mm,
And being able to just narrow in on one thing and be fully present and engaged on that is like a way of like creating that clarity. So it's less of like getting like this energy boost, but it's more so like reducing the noise so that you can actually just be clear and not
mm,
have like all these different things like coming at you and you can just and then I think on the other side of that is like a place of like you just said like a place of clarity and then moving from that place is probably going to feel just like less like you're moving through mud if you were beforehand because now you just removed a bunch of the other stuff that
yep.
was going on, you know?
Yeah, true. And you had to intentionally like filter out this like all this background noise so you can focus on that one thing.
Right, right. And it's like when that like energy like I've been having like these lower like these just these spunks where I get into and I can tell you every time I'm in like a really low energy state and then I try to force something that I'm like, oh, well, I should be working out right now. And then I go and force that same workout I've done 1,000 times and I go and force it. That workout's never like it like sure, it helps me a little bit, but it doesn't get to a place where I feel like it doesn't get me to a place where I feel like I'm better off by forcing it
Mm,
versus if it just shift my focus on something else
yeah.
and do something that might be like slightly different, then I find it's like that is the thing that's gonna like help me just like come out of that funk, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah,
And sorry,
definitely.
someone's banging on my door right now. Can you pause this and we'll just edit this part?
I think so. We're back, baby. All right.
Back.
Yeah. Okay. So mailman came to the door. Now we're back.
Yeah, mailman, dog is going crazy.
Got it.
Um, yeah, so I like, one thing I'll tie this into is I've been getting this left knee pain for a bit now. It's been on and off here and there. Um, and I've experimented and done a bunch of things in relation to like conventional exercise and different things that you can like all the common things like stretching it and stabilizing it and then activating it and like just all the things like I've done a lot of those things that you would do and maybe with a physio or a strength coach or a personal trainer, any of that kind of stuff. Um, and then even done things like red light therapy and like other things, supplementation, different things like that. And it hasn't gotten worse, but it certainly is not something that's like totally out of my ether. It still gets aggravated, and then I need to do some things to like lower the pain signal that I'm getting. And but recently, what I've been doing is like instead of just kind of going about the common things that I do. And then in the gym, I've found ways to just kind of like get out of the gym and create some, like, put myself in an environment where I have to be like kind of fully dialed in. Like I can't be focused on, like I can't just pull up my phone or be thinking about something else. And what I've done is I've gone to some trails around my house. And these trails are great because they're like a lot of, like, some have some really steep parts to them. So I got to go downhill, I got to go uphill. And when I'm doing those things, I'm like fully, like I'm nowhere else, just like in this conversation, like I'm just fully here, fully present. And every time I've done it, I've felt no knee pain. And by the time I'm done, like I just did it before this call today, by the time I'm done, I actually have like a bounce back in my left side, which is like, for what's going on with my knee, it's less of like what the pain is. The pain is totally manageable. It's not something that keeps me up at night. It doesn't really limit, static or more like conventional exercises, but like jumps and things like that or sprinting, I notice it. It's just like my left side just feels flat. It's not, and so at the end of this trail run of having to like be reactive and do all these things, I was out there for, 45 minutes, and then by the end of this trail run, I'm like bouncing out of the forest, and sitting here right now and not having like any kind of pain. But I can tell you, on the weekend previously, on Saturday, I did a bunch of Olympic weightlifting. I did snatches, I did some clean and jerks, I did squats. And like by Saturday night, like I was just like walking down the stairs was painful, was like noticeably painful. So it's just interesting how, if we can inject something that is like slightly different from the usual behaviors that we do and the usual, like the path that we've been carving out every week, week in, week out, and you just inject just a little bit of kind of variability or just something that is different. Like on Tuesday, you weren't expecting to write, but you just kind of like the opportunity presented itself and you just went with it. I think that that is like a great way to mitigate some of the heaviness we might be feeling from, all the things that are trying to pull for our attention and all the things that we have to do in a day to day.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think regardless of what you're into, I think and regardless of like if you're a guy or a girl or whatever, like I think that having, something that is training your physical body is, important for so many reasons, whether that's like weightlifting or working on a farm or hiking or like what, it doesn't matter what it is, whatever it is. If it builds muscle mass and helps your aerobic capacity at the same time, then that's like a really good bang for your buck activity. But like it's having something for your physical body, but it's also having something for your mind and like your mind with two branches, like intellectually and creatively.
Mm.
If you can have something that stimulates all three of those things, that's really important. And it's like if you have something in each of those areas, then like you'll always have an option to direct your attention to, right? Like maybe you don't have energy to go train and work out, but you do have energy to read, right? Or you do have energy to write, or you do have energy to paint, or you do have energy to play guitar, or like whatever it is. But like if you can think of it as, okay, I need something physical, I need something intellectual, and I need something creative. Like that kind of just really helps like kind of build a good well-rounded person. And I think like when you're younger, not most people are thinking about that. You either see yourself as like a fully creative person, a fully intellectual person, or a physical person, right? You're either like the dumb jock, the nerd, or the theater kid. You know what I mean? Like those are like kind of like the three categories. But as you get older, you start to, I mean, I've started to realize that the what you want to do is you actually want to have a blend of all three of those things
Yeah,
and
right.
like, strive to do that because it really, although there will be a period of time where it's super uncomfortable, like if you're, someone who's like maybe you're like really overweight or your cardiovascular output is terrible or you're really weak, then strength training or going to a gym is going to feel super uncomfortable for you. Or
Hmm.
you're like maybe you are super fit and You know, you look great with your shirt off, but like if you get asked to dance, like you just go red in the face and you feel like, like you just like you hate every second of it.
That would be me.
Right. Yeah, unless it's in the end zone, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if you're like a creative person, like dancing might be your thing, right? And you might be able to work out a little bit, but then like, you might get exposed intellectually, right? Like if you might suck at math. Like you don't need to be good at math to be a good dancer. You don't need to know how to spell to be a good dancer or lift heavy weights. Like, so it's like all these three things where it's like you're gonna get exposed and feel uncomfortable in certain scenarios, but like those are really good processes to walk yourself through intentionally because the more times you can do that, the more equipped you are to like be able to try new things as you get older. And at the end of the day, like I love training, but like I can't train 50 hours a week, like
Mhm.
I could move 50 hours a week, but like you got again, like even that, like with training, I love it so much that I found creative outlets where I was doing Tai Chi for a long time because that was like a form of movement, but I could like it was chill and like restorative. So there's all these different ways to find some sort of stimulation. And like the cool thing about the cool thing about that is you'll kind of know where to pull from. Like you'll see it as like buckets and you're like, oh man, I've put so much emphasis into like the intellectual work, like building my business or studying or whatever, and like my brain is just fried and like, oh crap, like I haven't put any effort into
Yeah.
exercise. Or like, wow, I've been training like a madman and I haven't like read a book in like 4 months. Like maybe I should make some time for that. Like you'll just be able to like very obviously see where you're putting attention into. And then when you inevitably do kind of hit that point where it's like, okay, I love training yesterday and today, like I don't even want to do it. It's like, oh, well, yeah, let's look at the other areas of your life that you're not putting time and effort into.
Yeah, the three buckets is a definitely a good one to just kind of like have that framed in there. And like the I understand the um the privilege, if you will, of being able to just go out and be in the woods for an hour. And like I get that there's a lot of us who just don't have that kind of time. But I know that you got 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes where we go and look up Instagram, like you could have the thing, one of the buckets we're talking about, it could be something of reading, let's say, and it's like having, even if it's just you doing the reading for 5 minutes, it's still like just like that 5 minutes could easily turn to 15 if you're really enjoying what you're doing. You'll make the time for it. And or like the other side of that is like, well, 5 minutes for like maybe it's you've spent a lot of time on the intellectual side of things and you haven't had a whole lot of opportunities to exercise. Well, go back to what was it, like podcast 2 and 1, like we talked about isometrics and exercises you can do with like no equipment and things that you can do for like literally a minute. Do it for a minute and then okay, go on. Like, move on with your stuff. But if you're like, I just know for sure if you just open the door to it, then your body's going to crave it more. And you're going to feel good and it feels good to feel good. And then when you feel good, you're going to make time for feeling good. Like you're just going to do it. Versus if it's like, well, I only got 5 minutes, so I'll just spend the time, check my Instagram feed. And then like, okay, that 5 minutes is going to run by pretty damn fast. And now you haven't even checked or just checked in on any of those buckets. Right. So, I
Yeah.
just feel like, yeah, allotting 2.5 hours to writing, unreal. And like that's like I think that's like a place where we can all get to, and it's where we all want to get to, but it's also like it can seem like a heck of a mountain to try and climb when you got like, kids screaming at you. You only got a period of time like throughout the day when they're at school, and then you're at work and you got to do this, you got to do that. And then like it's just like a lot of responsibility and there's a lot of things that we're all trying to juggle. But just having an idea, and like you said, you're gonna know which bucket you're kind of like which one's missing for you, because in that, like, that bucket's valuable to you, whether it is reading or writing or whether it is moving, because you've always played sports and you've always been active and you just haven't been doing it as much. Like, it's a value of yours, right? And it's definitely going to be a missing need, and you'll know it. You're going to know that that is the, like, which one is missing for you, and just being able to kind of like not make it like it's got to be an hour long thing that you're going to do. It could be 30 seconds, you know, but
Yeah.
just taking that as an opportunity to just be like, all right, I'm going to just like take this ball and I'm going to throw it up and down and whatever, just something that's going to engage my brain, my eyes, my whatever, that like like anything. Like it's just like you said, like when we're kids, we don't think about those things. We just do. Like our body's just kind of like, as kids, it's like, oh well, I'm like really active. Okay, I get outside, or I want to like run around. So you just run around, like you just kind of do the things. But then as we have more noise and more things biting for our attention, yeah, I feel like it can really help manage the vampire of like our technology and things that just sucks energy. I think having an opportunity to just kind of like tap into one of those three buckets you mentioned can go a really long way.
Yeah. And this makes me think we should do a talk on working in versus working out.
Dude, yeah.
I feel like that would tie into this nicely, just the idea of like a movement or breathing practice that actually
Yeah, more specifics on what we're talking about.
yeah, and like an adaptive one. So if you need more energy, it'll give you more energy. If you need to chill out,
Oh,
it'll chill you out. Like it's really cool. It works like
that's
that.
a great
Yeah,
tease for the next episode.
yeah, we can save that for another day.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, couple minor technical difficulties. My camera looked great in the beginning and not so great in the end. But I think if you just listen, I think there's some valuable stuff here.
You just listen.
Yeah, you just listen. Alrighty. Well, we will see you later, Randy, my guy. Lots of love to you, buddy, and we'll chat soon.
Back at you. Peace.